Welcome to Module 2, Step 3. In this module, we will take a look at how power dynamics affect conflict. There are many ideas about power, but one that is most productive for conflict management is to see power as relational. In other words, power is not based in the individual, but in the relationship. Power dynamics are fluid. The power balance can switch back and forth based on the dependence of each party on the resources that the other party controls. These resources are sometimes called power currencies, and we all possess them to some degree. An acronym that may help to think about the types of power is RICE. RICE stands for Resource Control, Interpersonal Linkages, Communication Skills, and Expertise. Every party to a conflict has some of these currencies and sometimes has multiple currencies. Resource control has to do with the power to control resources, often economic resources, usually as part of a job position or title. A CEO, for example, has the ability to allocate resources and the power that comes along with that responsibility. Interpersonal linkages refers to the power we gain based on personal connections. You may have heard the expression, "It's not what you know, it's who you know." Communication skills can also be a source of power. The ability to communicate well with others can help you bring value to an organization or enable you to solve problems at home. One example of this kind of power is the employee who is able to help a company develop a brand. Expertise brings power when we have specialized skills that are valued when someone needs our expertise. A webmaster with specialized computer skills might have this type of power. What about you? Stop the video here and think about what types of power currencies you possess in different relationships. The important thing to remember is that in any relationship, we have some or all of these power currencies to some degree. Focusing on developing as many power currencies as possible can help us to avoid depending on just one type of power. How does power affect communication? Research by Morrison and Rothman shows that power can have some negative effects on communication. Lower power parties tend to perceive potential harm or futility in speaking up when conflicts arise, while higher power parties tend to be less open to input and less self-censoring the further they go up the hierarchical chart. This disparity can be a real source of conflict escalation. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule. Knowing that our relative positions of power may influence us to take positions that exacerbate conflict can help us avoid these pitfalls. What characterizes collaborative power? First is dialogue. A face-to-face conversation is the best place to start. Second is restraint. When higher power parties choose not to exercise their power, but instead decide to empower lower power parties in order to find a mutually beneficial solution, all parties benefit. Third is a focus on interdependence. All parties must recognize the different power currencies that others possess and acknowledge that we are all dependent upon each other to some degree. Fourth is the power of calm persistence. For lower power parties, remembering to be calm and persist in advocating for change in a respectful way can lead to success. Last is metacommunication. Metacommunication is communicating about communication. For example, asking the other party to express concerns in person instead of through email is a form of metacommunication that can help resolve conflict and ensure a better balance of power. One last aspect of power and communication is the way that power is treated in different orientations to conflict management. Research shows that most people use a power-based approach to dispute systems design. Decisions about how to resolve conflict are made by first considering who has the power in the relationship. Basic human rights and legal obligations are given some consideration, but the interests of those involved in the conflict are not a focus. In ideal dispute system design, the interests of all parties are considered first. What are the underlying interests? Is there a way to find a solution that satisfies everyone's interests? Next, the rights of those involved are considered, and the least emphasis is given to who has the most power. Understanding how power dynamics affect conflict and striving to use our power in relationships wisely will help us build constructive conflict as we understand ourselves and others.